Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
To start off, be me. Be 8 years old. Go to a friend's birthday party. See this weird kid, incredibly pale, to the point where you could see the veins in his skin. He's dressed like a 1920s paperboy for some reason. His clothes look really old. He's literally wearing a cap, tweed trousers, and a blazer. He has a strange cut or scar on his face. Ask him how he got it. Starts talking about how the kids at his school pushed him on the playground and he fell over. He has this incredibly creepy, whispery voice and speaks like his parents are in the other room and he's trying not to wake them up. Get increasingly uncomfortable and walk away. Even though I lived in the same town for nearly 5 years, I never saw him again. This story is probably boring compared to most of the stuff posted here, but for some reason this experience really stuck with me. There was something incredibly uncanny about him. I went to school with a ton of spurgs and artists, hell, I am one. But none of them gave off the same vibes as he did. He was inhuman.
I have many experiences, and will tell one short, less significant story. Be me. Around first or second year of high school. Live in a small city, 10,000 people, have a house on the edge bordering a forest. House empty. Me and my mate trying dumb parkour stuff in front of it. There was a garage with a flat roof in front of the house, so we practiced climbing on it. Gets dark, but we have enough light from streetlights as the road is right next to us, so we continue. This road is practically deserted. Think of it as a little detour road that leads from the main road. It connects 3 houses to the main road. Houses are next to each other, mine being in the middle. We're basically alone and there are no sounds in the background. I get tired of wall kicking to get to the top of the garage and decide to go back around it as it's easier to climb from there. My mate stays in front of the garage. I can hear him talking. As I'm halfway to getting to the back of the garage, suddenly I close my eyes with this gigantic black dog. From his direction I assumed he walked up from the road and was dancing my neighbor's house. And after the house comes the forest. I stop and freeze. My mate is still talking behind me, but he doesn't have line of sight either on me or the black dog. I'm just frozen into a staring contest with the dog. I'm confused as to how did he get there without sound, especially since it was huge. It's all black, the streetlight doesn't penetrate as good in that spot. It doesn't make a sound, it just stands there. All that is separating him and me is this mini fence that he could easily jump over. After what felt like an eternity, the dog just turns head and goes into the forest direction without sound. I walk fast to my house, dragging my confused mate with me, and lock the door. My neighbors don't have dogs as both yards are open. I still remember the terror I had when I locked my eyes with this gigantic black beast. My friend is unaware to this day about what happened. The next story might be related to this. Same house as previous story, edge of town, near forest, practically deserted area. Every few nights I would hear occasional exhales in front of my window. My bed was right under this window and this window was on the back of the house, facing the forest. It was always pitch black and we didn't have any lights for that direction. The first few nights I thought it was my imagination. I would just roll over and fall asleep. This always happened deep into the night, around 2 or 3 a.m. One night I wake up around 2 to 3 a.m., can't fall asleep, just laying in bed half awake. Hear a single exhale in front of my window. Literally a few dozen centimeters from me. I shrugged it off as imagination only to hear it again some 10 meters later. I freeze and listen, now thinking that this has been happening for a few nights but I've been ignoring it. Imagine a tired dog doing a big exhale, air coming out of his lungs into nose. That's exactly what I heard. Suddenly realize there is a living thing near me, only separated by one sheet of glass. The exhale happens periodically for 10 to 15 minutes. After about an hour, I fall asleep from exhaustion. Tell my parents the next day, but they think nothing of it. This repeated not each night but every few nights. Once I got up and turned on the light in my room and tried to look out the window, but it was pitch black and I only saw my reflection. I even knocked on the window that time to scare whatever it was. After doing those things, I got back into bed and was terrified when I heard it again. This time it sounded closer than ever. I shat bricks because I was just looking out the window and knocking on it just moments ago. Was petrified but didn't hear it again after that one time. Got back to sleep out of exhaustion after some time. This happened at least twice per week, and it lasted until we moved to another house a few months later.
I'll have to paint a picture of the location to give you a sense of what made this so creepy. West Texas. Houses stand about a mile from each other. My house has a long driveway that meets the main highway. I stand next to this highway every morning waiting for the bus to take me to school. This story takes place when I'm already home though. 5th grade. Never really have friends over due to distance. Today is different. I'm playing with some action figures in my room. Alone. Knock at the front door. Mom goes to answer. After a moment she pokes her head into my room. There are some kids from school to see you anon. I'm too excited to realize how unusual this is. Race to the front door. See these kids I've never met. I will never forget how they looked. It's a boy and a girl. Today, I would recognize their clothing as something like boarding school clothes, maybe. Very old-timey style, coarse brown material, old-fashioned haircuts, the works. The first thing I ask them is if I know them from school. No response. Then I ask their names. No response again. Finally I ask, "Who are you?" Nothing, not a word, they don't even move. Just keep staring at me. I don't even remember them blinking. I should be spooked, but I'm too damn excited to have company. I tell them to wait right there and I'll get my toys. Run to my room. Pick up my action figures, run back out the door. The kids are gone, like seriously vanished. Again, this is West Texas, so it's a lot of flat land, kinda like PIC related. Only my house wasn't run down and I did have a couple of small trees around it. I run around back thinking the kids have gone behind the house. Again, it's virtually flat with no trees. I can see a long distance. Not a soul. I run back around and look down the driveway that ends at the highway. Nobody there. I run down to the highway and look down both sides of the road. Empty. Sit on the porch confused for a long while. I wait maybe 20 minutes? Maybe longer. Kids never show back up. Eventually go back inside. Mom's been inside cleaning and cooking. Tell her what happened. She's busy so she shrugs it off. Years later, bring it back up. Do you remember that one day, those kids showed up and then disappeared? Don't even mention what the kids look like, but Mom knows right away.
I actually thought those kids were really creepy. They were dressed up in old-timey clothes, and they had this really weird way of talking.
I never heard them speak, so I asked her what they talked like.
Like English robots or something.
Still don't have an explanation. There's nowhere those kids could have been hiding. Even if it was a prank, they would have had to find those old get-ups and walk who knows how long to get to my house.
Posted this before. But, true story. Coming back from a friend's house in the winter, he lived about 1/4 a mile away, in a rural village in England. I noticed a thing by the side of the road. If any of you can remember 70s cartoon, The Shmoo, it looked like that. It was dark but the moon was bright. It was a dancing, I suppose, no arms, massive feet and about 2.5 foot tall, white. As I got closer I got off my skateboard and carried it walking, rubbing my eyes to see if it was a trick of the light. As I got closer it noticed me, and in the blink of an eye it was a woman, all white but with a black handbag. I tried not to look at it and just walked past. Turned around and it was gone. Next night, I was riding my bike and out of nowhere an apple smacked me in the side of the head and I fell off my BMX. An apple in winter, bare trees, no one around. I got back on my bike and pedaled off home as fast as I could. When I got the internet in 1995, I searched paranormal forums on Usenet. I found nothing. 2015, a friend told me about the cow brag native to my county. My aunt told me her mum saw something similar in the 60s. Be preschool age, circa 2000 or 2001. My parents sent me on extended vacations to my grandparents in Ohio. It's a cool farmhouse in the hills, Amish settlement nearby. Closest real civilization was like a combo gas station / Pizza Hut / country bar several miles up the road. Lots of fond memories, even though that place is definitely haunted and I had a lot of nightmares there. Being driven up to the house by Grandpa. Passing a house with a guy standing in his front yard. He flags down Grandpa and points to his driveway. Looked to be in his 50s, creepy looking, like very thin and spindly torso and legs with bulky arms and a gaunt face. Grandpa turns back to me and says to stay low because he eats children. Grandpa gets out of the car and locks the doors. Follows this guy over to his garage. They talk outside for less than 2 minutes. Grandpa hurries back to the car. Burns rubber out of the driveway. We almost slip off the opposite side of the road and down the hill. Days to a week later. Creepy guy comes to the house while I'm playing outside. Drives an old 50s or 60s Ford that was spewing black exhaust. Truck had a bunch of black bags and junk in the back. Steps out of the truck, staring at me grinning ear to ear. Grandpa comes out from the barn and starts leading him that way. Grandma comes out from the house at the same time and takes me inside, not allowed out till the guy leaves. Couple days later, I was supposed to be sleeping downstairs in Uncle's old room. Old house is creepy as fuck at night, makes all manner of noises. Hear shit outside. Run upstairs and sleep in my grandparents' bed. Have a nightmare where a shadow man is chasing me through the grounds outside the house and stole my ability to speak so I can't call my grandma for help. Months later, back home in another state. Sleep in the living room because little sister keeps rolling around making noise in sleep. Have a nightmare that the same shadow man is staring at me through the sliding glass door that leads outside.
WTF, this one is weird and spoopy. What was up with that dude?
While he did look weird, and me feeling the shadow man nightmares being connected is odd, I learned a lot later on that there's a perfectly rational explanation for that story. The /x/ file that's interesting about my time at the farmhouse is that it was a part of the Underground Railroad, and the creek/spring that ran from under the house and bisected the property was littered with old Timmy trash from around that era. The basement was probably haunted. I only remember going down there a couple times and the air was heavy, felt like I was in a crowd of people. One summer I was there when fireflies were in full swing and I saw an apparition hanging out around one of the barns watching me chase the bugs. I had thought it was a grandparent cause it was dark, but then they both came out of the house, which was in the opposite direction of the barn. Looked back and it had vanished.
Dude was probably a locally known PED Minecraft YouTuber and your grandpa was just trying to protect you.
This one's some common baby shit, but it stuck with me. Be me, like 4 or 5 or so. Just got done playing with my friends in the yard at 8 p.m. We were playing pretend astronauts or some shit. Everyone goes back inside because Ma's making cookie bars. I look across the way to where my grandma was living, parallel to my house. There's this big 9-foot-tall looking asshole completely pitch black with his hands in his trenchcoat pockets, fedora on his head. He was like a silhouette, lit by my neighbor's big-ass floodlights behind him. I call out to him like a dumbass. He dashes to his left and ducks behind a telephone pole. Even bigger dumbass move, go over to see who he is behind the telephone pole. completely disappeared behind this THNG that's like 1.5 feet in diameter with my grandma's fresh mowed and clear yard out on the other end. It was only in high school when I learned about shadow people from some kid in my shop telling people about it. Wasn't super creepy by any means, but it was real surreal, and it was an actually comfy childhood experience. Sam, if you're reading this, you were a really rad dude back in high school. Keep on rocking on, brother.
WTF. Started reading. Think, when done I'll do my own Shadow Man experience. Get to bottom and refresh page. Read this, shivers bro. Lazy old nub and dunno Greentext. 12 years old, live in Holland. Recently moved to suburbs with a fairly decent-sized wooded area close by. Make friend. We go ride mountain bikes on trails between some dike, geographical version, and the edge of said forest. As he's driving like 20 meters in front of me, I see a large black figure next to a tree about 50 meters out in the woods. Same as described by Anon above. Complete with a tricorn hat. Pointed down as in looking at me from just underneath it. No real detail visible, just a pitch black figure outlined that stood out from the bushes. Startled, I yell to my friend to get him to look at it, but in the second of looking at the friend and back, it was gone. He never saw it. Still walk there often with the dog. Also near complete darkness, but I never seen it again. Thankfully. Although there's been times where the dog has gotten really spooked suddenly and just went straight after something when I saw nothing. Another weird occurrence when I was walking the dog at night in another area of the park, closer to housing even, when I heard what you think a witch's circle would sound like, crazy folks hollering and making disturbing laughing sounds. I approached but was still in street light. Sounds came from darkest area of the park across water, but as I got closer I think they noticed and got even weirder. Maybe some LARPers, weird-ass Wiccans. Made me think about the time before we actually lived there and just had a walk around the area. In the area I heard that weird shit. We found a huge hollowed-out animal carcass to the side of a path, which we felt kind of strange. Not much big wildlife out here. But that was years before that. Had some weird-ass paranormal experiences as well in my own fucking bedroom around that time.
Be me. 12 or 13 years old. Sleep in a cabin bed. I have been thinking about Chucky. Yes, the evil toy. Go to the cabin bed to sleep. It's like 9 p.m. I closed my eyes. I'm there trying to sleep like 20 minutes. I literally feel like someone was shaking the stairs of the cabin bed. I first think I'm dizzy, so I try to focus. Still moving. The feeling is so specific. I can feel like it was someone little making the movement, like yes, Chucky. I'm so sure, something is there, so I check it. Obviously, there's nothing. Till this day, I have no explanation to this history. Any ideas?
I genuinely used to experience something similar when I was younger. Think it stopped at around 12 or so, maybe came back once or twice throughout my teens, but hasn't happened for years. For me, it felt like someone shaking the mattress from side to side or someone resting their feet against the foot of the bed and jiggling them to make the bed vibrate. Sometimes my quilt would also get pulled briefly, like it was suddenly too heavy on one side and was falling to the floor, but it wasn't. Another thing I used to get that I don't anymore was being able to hear someone else's breathing, very close to me. As if someone was sleeping near me. Sometimes I thought it was my dad in the next room, as he was a loud sleeper and snorer, but the sound was definitely within my room. I could never pinpoint, and often I was too scared to properly check. No idea why that used to happen, but it was always terrifying. One other thing I used to get frequently that stopped after a certain age is Just as I was on the cusp of sleep, someone saying my name right next to my ear so clearly that it would startle me awake. It was always someone like my mother, or a friend, someone I was close to or saw almost every day. I can still remember clearly how some of them sounded as well, even though it's been about 15 plus years since it stopped.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.